Hello. Please hit like button and subscribe my channel. Also press bell icon for future video notifications. Thanks.
Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO of the blood testing company Theranos, was found guilty yesterday, January 3, of fraud, the latest development in a headline-grabbing saga that has spanned nearly 2 decades and been the subject of a book, a podcast, and a documentary. Her trial, held over almost 4 months in San Jose, California, was seen as a referendum on Silicon Valley's "fake it till you make it" ethos, as prosecutors alleged that Holmes solicited almost $1 billion from investors by touting a device that never lived up to the company's claims. Of the 11 charges Holmes was facing at trial, she was found guilty of 3 counts of wire fraud and 1 of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The jury found her not guilty of conspiring to defraud patients, 2 other patient-related charges, and 1 count of lying in paid advertisements, according to Stat, and were unable to reach a consensus on 3 counts of misleading investors. Nevertheless, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of California, Stephanie Hines, tells The Washington Post that the guilty verdicts in this case reflect Ms. Holmes's culpability in this large-scale investor fraud, and she must now face sentencing for her crimes. A sentencing date is expected. The story of Theranos stretches back to 2003, when Holmes, a Stanford University dropout, founded the company with the goal of revolutionizing blood testing. Having long struggled with a fear of needles, Holmes often spoke of designing a machine capable of running hundreds of routine tests on just a few drops of blood collected via a finger prick. She was able to pack her board with a panoply of powerful figures, including former Secretaries of Defense James Mattis and William Perry, former Secretaries of State George Shultz and Henry Kissinger, and William Foge, a former director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In evidence presented at the trial, they detailed instances in which they said Holmes lied to investors about non-existent partnerships with the U.S. military and the drug company Pfizer, and about how she misled executives at Walgreens, whose former CFO testified against Holmes at the trial, in order to. The device, first dubbed the Edison and later called the Minilab, was touted as being able to run hundreds of tests on site at each Walgreens location, but could in fact run only a small handful, and often gave bad results. Several patients took to the stand during the trial to share their experiences, including one man whose test results suggested he was at high risk for developing prostate cancer, and a woman, Erin Tompkins, who thought she might have HIV after a Theranos test detected 1 of 4 HIV antibodies. "I was quite emotional at the time," she said during the trial, in comments quoted by the Wall Street Journal. In truth, almost all of the samples were being run on modified third-party machines at the Theranos lab in Palo Alto, California. Researchers and technicians would later describe lax safety protocols, including a lack of PPE and improper hazard disposal. Speaking to reporter John Carreru, whose investigative series of stories for the Journal ultimately unraveled Holmes's deceptions, former clinical lab technician Lena Castro detailed in a podcast episode how members of the lab often threw vials of blood into biohazard bags on the floor. "But if you throw things, they tend to splatter," she said, adding that she often cleaned blood from the sides of instruments. "I remember we had a girl that actually had some fluids from one instrument splash in her eyes because she didn't have the proper PPE." Holmes's lawyers are expected to appeal the ruling, according to The Times. While each count of fraud carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, legal experts tell the Associated Press that it's likely Holmes will be sentenced to less time, or that her sentences will be served concurrently. Investors are still going to want to make more money on a promising idea. They will always go in for the golden ring. Quote, "Please support my channel to grow by pressing subscribe button and the bell icon. We will notify you technological news. Thank you."